This is an overview of the information graphic project that we have in the Advanced Illustrator class. Let's go ahead and get started. So what are information graphics? An information graphic is something that explains something to you not only with words but images. Information graphics is something that's been around for a long time. A stop sign is a information graphic. People I read to my daughter all the time, and what a children's book is you've got text and you've got images. So a lot of us were raised with this, and we understand the concept. It's really that simple. That if you said Billy kicked the ball, it would be an illustration of Billy kicking a ball, and you put the two things together. And my little 2-year-old, at the time of this video, she's 2. She might be able to figure out, probably can figure out. Okay, well, with words and images and the actual and my voice, of course, it helps her understand things faster. But I like this quote says here: 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual. So we're very big on visual learning. So sometimes just hearing it or just seeing it written down is not quite as powerful as having a visual to go with it. So that's what we're doing. We're creating a graphic to go with it. This assignment is kind of focused on anybody and the potential for you to work with an executive or work with a business that's trying to convey stats and facts that make that business seem more appealing. That's normally when you're going to do it. So you want to go into that board meeting and show everybody how well you're doing. You don't just want to say it, you want to show it. And that's where information graphics become relevant. There's other context for this, but I'm just going to give you that generic one to get started. So it's a way to illustrate complex ideas quickly. So what type of infographic are we creating? This is such a big deal. I'm so glad you're watching this video, because if you don't watch this video, you're going to be a wreck. We're creating a montage of different information graphics. So they're going to go together like puzzle pieces. They are intentionally simple, and the way it's supposed to work is that the whole should be greater than the sum of its parts. So in other words, by themselves, these graphics may not be that impressive, but when you put them all together and you combine them, it should be pretty impressive. So we're going to break down what those are now. We've got an anchor graphic, a pie chart, a bar chart, a pictorial chart, and some fact boxes. Actually, it says call out there, but it should be stats or facts. That's really what this is. And the requirements could change. There's a specific number of these that you're supposed to be using. Normally it's, I won't even say what it is, just in case I want to change it in the future. But that's what we're relying on primarily. I state this again later in the video, especially at the end, but there are a lot of different types of infographics out there, and if you research this topic, you're going to get a little bit confused because there's so many options out there. This is something where if you look up online a bunch of infographics, they're going to be a lot different than what you're creating in class, because in class you're creating something very specific. I just want to clarify that there's a lot of different types out there, and we're just taking 5 popular ones and putting them together. That's what we're doing. But if you look out there, any one of them, a pie chart could be an infographic by itself on the internet, a bar chart, the same thing, or you can see them combined together. This is just a specific combination that I came up with through research. It requires a big giant anchor graphic that's supposed to be number 1 in the visual hierarchy, and then everything else kind of falls in line. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but it's a montage. It's a mixture. They're supposed to look like they go together. The routine mistake that students make on this one, I'll warn you right now, is that they actually kind of make each infographic its own thing, and then when they bring them all together, it looks really bad because of the fact that the student didn't really visualize the end result and how this was going to be a team effort on the part of their design. You got to have a big kahuna in that anchor graphic, and then you have to find ways to understate and overstate the rest of your facts. But you can see in mine, for example, if I had made a box office here, a big juicy giant piece of artwork here, it really would have interrupted the design. That's why it's so light on that background. It's me playing with contrast, trying to make sure that the wrong information doesn't pop out. Let's keep going. So how about anchor graphics? What is an anchor graphic, right? And by the way, some of this terminology, if you look it up online, I mean, it's loose terminology. It's not like you might find somebody else teaching about infographics and not say anchor graphic. But what I'm saying is it's the big it's the first thing that you see. It anchors the page. Not all infographics have it, but this particular assignment should have one. This is just an example of some infographics I found on the web, and it shows what they are. Like there's one here and here and here and here. In other words, there's a good title, like here's a guide to bringing a dog home for the first time, and here's a dog standing in front of the doormat, super happy. That's what we're trying to do with an infographic. We're trying to come up with something that complements the title. Great typography, a great illustration. This should be something that you actually spend some time on, that you work at. The infographics, this is actually not really an infographic. I mean, it is. If you have a text and an image, it's pretty much an infographic to be technical. But this is a title. It's not statistical information or anything like that. It's just supposed to really excite the user and get them excited, the viewer, the user, to make them want to read, to make them want to check this thing out. So as you can see, these are all titles. It's a lot of typography and it's illustrations. And all of these that I've highlighted here have good typography and an illustration to go with it. This one here is a little teenage pregnancy. It's a little bit of an outlier. It might be confusing because look, it's basically two infographics. I have had students create a big overall graphic and then put all of their charts and stuff and to put all of their infographics inside of it. I'm perfectly fine with that. So that's why I put that there. It might seem like an outlier, but it's really not. There's lots of creative ways we can combine these guys together. All right, pie charts. And I'm not going to dig super deep into these. There's lots of different types of pie charts out there, but here's what I have to say about pie charts. Here's a pie chart. We're supposed to jazz it up, make it look pretty. Make sure you've always got a title so I know what it's about, and that you've got a legend down here at the bottom so we know what these sections are. We'll get technical about how to create a pie chart in class, but I'm not talking technical at this point. I'm just saying, here it is. Here's what it looks like. And I always suggest for this particular assignment, just in general, to keep it really simple. 3 to 5 categories is all I would go. I wouldn't even go 5. I like 3 myself. It makes it really simple to look at visually. It's going to have a lot of competition with the other infographics beside it. Don't make it super complicated. But the goal is to create, the goal of the assignment, for me, what I try to convey to students is you're creating a visual theme. So you can use colors, you can use textures, you can modify the shapes a little bit, but whatever you do, it shouldn't look like it was generated by Excel. If it looks like it was generated by Excel, it's a failure. Because, well, most executives and most people that work in the business world can generate it. They can put stats, they can make a table, and they can generate a pie chart like this one. So you need to make it pretty. Same thing with bar charts, same thing. I'd stick to 3 to 5. Sometimes people go with 5, make sure people can see the legend. It's not always even that important that you be able to see the numbers over here on the side, as much as be able to see that one thing is bigger than another. Again, stay away from being bland. So we need a pie chart, we need a bar chart, and also a pictorial chart. Pictorial chart, technically. Pictorial charts, this is sort of complicated and sort of not complicated, because the fact that it can represent any sort of data. In other words, you can make any infographic that I've mentioned so far, like a pie chart or a bar chart, and there's a bunch of other types of charts. You can actually illustrate what you're saying with actual artwork. Instead of actually having bars in your bar graph or actually having a pie in your pie graph, you could literally make if you made your pie chart into a literal pie, that technically would be a pictorial chart. But normally it's about a certain number of information, right? So if I were trying to convey pasta like it does here in this bar chart, I could use pasta, or truck information, I could make the truck longer like you see here. But there's another example here where I simply used a pictorial chart to kind of demonstrate a simple stat, which is 2 and 3 nerds excited to see the new Hellboy, which didn't do very well at the box office, by the way. But that's all I had, so I decided to use it. By the way, there's a lesson in this. Pick a topic. Like I picked that topic like a year before that movie came out, and went pretty far with it, so I decided to use it in here. But the movie flopped. Nobody saw it, and now I'll have to make something new. If you pick a topic and you want it to look good in your portfolio for a long time, pick something that you're pretty confident will remain relevant for a good period of time. But if you pick something that might be popular, like I did, you might be disappointed and be like, "Wow, I wish I hadn't done that." So that's just a little bit of advice I'm tossing in to let you know. Don't do that. All right. So if you're conveying numbers with pictures or images, you're creating a pictorial chart. And yes, you might create a bar chart that is a combination pictorial chart, and I will accept that as one thing. I don't know why I typed 1 there twice, so I'll fix that typo if you were reading that. Statistics and facts. This is a little bit more fun. In my opinion, it's the easiest. It's the easiest. Dramatic typography and maybe a little bit of minimalist artwork. When I say minimalist, I mean minimalist, because you just want it to be kind of a very simple icon or representation of something, like the 3 babies that you see right there, or the whatever that is. It looks like milk and a tomato in the blue stat right there. So stats are what I said here. Like a stat example is in the book, Frodo Baggins was 50 when he left the Shire. In the movie, he was 33. Yeah, I'm a nerd, and that's a statistic. That's a 50 and 33. There's numbers involved. A fact is Jake Gyllenhaal auditioned to play Frodo. So that's just an example of the information. And I love peppering my infographics with a whole bunch of this information. In fact, you'll find posters out there. That's all that they are. They're just facts that are placed like this. We're doing a little bit more than that because we're adding in the pictorial element, the bar chart, the pie chart. So if you see one of those, don't be like, I want to do that. I mean, we're doing something specific. You have to kind of combine these together. So here's a quick talk on picking a topic and finding data. So picking a topic can be really hard. Okay, so for that reason, I allow you to create your own fake data. Here's some pointers. Okay, so in other words, it doesn't have to be real information. I prefer that it is, but if it's not, if that's what you need to do to make this work, do it. Because I've seen some students really get hung up on that. They keep looking up statistical information, and I'm like, you know what? Just make it up if you have to. So here's some other points I wanted to make. Pick a topic that you're passionate about. See what information's out there. And you're going to have to do research. There's no way around it on this assignment. You will have to do research on some sort of topic. I mentioned Lord of the Rings. If I wanted to do something on that, I could. But don't let the fact that I used a movie in my example lead you any other direction. Keep listening. I'll give you another idea. But there's lots of ideas out there. And I list a bunch whenever you look at the requirements for this assignment. Avoid controversial topics. You don't want an awkward interview. If you, like, for example, picking something highly political, maybe you're super passionate about politics and you decide to make a really political poster. Now, you can do that. I'm not gonna say you can't do that. I'm just gonna say you might go into an interview and half the people could be voting for a different party, and all of a sudden you're like, I wish I hadn't done this. At least know what you're doing. Just keep that stuff in mind. A more neutral topic might serve you better in an interview. I'm not trying to impede your freedom of speech or anything. I'm just warning you about something that you don't want to think about after the fact. Avoid those topics then that might cause some controversy. Yeah. Find a great title, or create a great title. A great title can be a real attention getter. So that should be the first thing you get is like, this is my infographic, this is my title. Then look up data. But don't just make your whole design and then make a title after the fact. You'll regret it. For example, shark bites could be an infographic on shark attacks, and the title could be shark bites. That would be fun. I can see a visual to go with that. It's a pretty simple idea, and it'd probably work. So about your layout, again, you're taking, like I did here, if you count, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different elements and bringing them together. Now, layout is always hard for people. Well, here's some suggestions that I have. I gave you a file called Infographic Formats. I highly suggest you get that and that you actually make pieces. If you notice here in this example, I created in the year 1993. I didn't even use that, but I made 1, 2, 3, 4 different versions of it. And I did that on purpose. I did that because I could kind of slide the pieces in and out and see how they fit in my little arrangement down here. So that's why I gave this to you. You don't necessarily have to use it, but I suggest you do. Keep it boxy. This helps you avoid weird pooling white space. So the boxier it is, the less you're going to have weird space. Pooling white space would be like this space right here, this space right here. The pie chart kind of has a problem with it. It creates a little bit of weird space. You see that? See the space above Hellboy's shoulders here? It's very hard to avoid pooling white space, but I do my best to try and avoid it in this design. And so will you, but if I didn't try and square out my text like I did here, this thing would look a lot different and it wouldn't be as attractive in my opinion. Work in black and white at first. You see how I just worked in black and white up here, and then I switched over and found some simple color scheme, which is really just a red and a brown. That's all that I use for the entire thing. Different tone to that. Really made life easier, but I started off in black and white and then brought it in here and messed around with the colors because I knew I was going to change them. No reason to mess with colors up here. And like it says here, create a simple color scheme. Avoid all heavy and light. Avoid all heavy or all light colors. You're going to need a variety of colors here. And actually, it's really not colors. It's different shades is what we're talking about. You want, technically you can do super dark, like the black over here, a mid-tone, and a highlight, right? So keep that in mind. And vary the size of your information. Remember that you're creating a visual hierarchy. So you want, I always suggest that you do small, medium, and large. You don't want a lot of large things. Really, you got number 1, maybe you got, and then you got big, gigantic guy over here. When I say small, medium, large, I'm actually talking about the infographics themselves. So this is a small, this is a large, and this is a medium. And here's another medium, and then this is a large. And I suppose this would qualify as a large as well, or even super large. But you can see the variation that's happening in here. This isn't my favorite design. It just kind of really does show you what I'm looking for in a quick, simple graphic. So there you have it. Other types of information graphics. This is the end of this video. I just wanted to clarify this in case students get confused. And I've got overachievers out there that might do some research or might not read the assignment for that matter. Don't do that. It's going to make you crazy. There are many other types of unique infographics, instructions, timelines, maps, hierarchies, networks. We are not creating these. They would be great topics if we had time, but we're not. But if you look up infographics, these are going to pop up. And if you try to work from those examples rather than really understanding what I'm communicating to you, which is that we're making this montage of information graphics and a big anchor graphic to ground all of it, you'll really have a hard time on this. And I have a lot of students do that. I mean, they'll actually submit like a timeline of, like how something happened in history, and yes, it's an information graphic, and it's very clear that they really weren't following instructions in the classroom, and that they pretty much just found something they liked online and they tried to recreate something similar to it and really lost touch with what it is I was asking them to do. So make sure you don't do that. There's infographics are a huge, gigantic topic. I'm just literally, this is 3 weeks where we're just focusing on what really adds up to 4 different types of infographics, and we're not digging incredibly deep. And that's intentional, because there could be a level 1, 2, 3 class on this topic. This is just a touch point, and hopefully it opens your eyes to a whole realm of possibilities of things you can do, and in regards to creating information graphics professionally at some point in the future. Okay, well, I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for listening.